Out in the forest the orange tree grows. Way in the back, nobody knows. The fruit it grows is magical indeed. Just one bite will put you to sleep. Chapter 3 is called A Simpler Life. To make sure that you catch all the chapters, click subscribe below. Chapter 3 A Simpler Life. Life for Norman Shooter was not always so fast-paced as this. There was a time in his life when the alarm did not ring at 4:15 a.m. every morning. There was a time when he saw the hotel room only on vacation. The firm beds and the smell of fresh sheets were a sign for Norman that somewhere on the other side of the hotel room was a beach, an ocean, and a Mai Tai waiting just for him. Norman thinks back on that former life often. It was just 3 years ago. So much can change in 3 years. A great speaker that Norman met once had pointed it out best. Norman can see the quote in his head like it is printed on a plaque. People overestimate what they can accomplish in a single year, but they underestimate what can be done in 5 years. David Fabricius. It's true, too. In 3 years, Norman never thought he would be this far. He is so excited for what the next 2 years will hold for him. Norman rides the elevator down to the lobby, and he loses himself in a memory between the floors. It is 1999. Norman remembers it well. He is sitting on the couch on a Saturday morning. His cat, named Fido, a horrible name for a cat to be sure, purrs and presses into Norman's shoulder and walks back and forth, using Norman as a scratching post against which to rub his body. Norman loved when Fido does this, so he lets it continue. Fido rubs one direction, turns around, and rubs the other, purring all the while. On the television, the community news begins. The news anchor poses a simple question. What would you do to become rich beyond your wildest dreams? We're going to explore this question and more when we return from this commercial break. Norman's fiancée, Linda, is in the kitchen making eggs, sausage, and grilled apples. He proposed to her 3 months prior. Norman was sitting through the reception of Linda's cousin's wedding. Norman was sitting through the reception of Linda's cousin's wedding, and Norman watched Linda as she danced. They had been dating for just 6 months, but Norman knew that he wanted to be with her for the rest of his life. When the DJ called the last song, Norman took her hand, and they slow danced until the music stopped. He walked Linda over to the side of the babbling brook that ran along the side of the outdoor wedding reception and stopped her there. I don't have a ring yet, but I cannot wait another minute. Norman puts his right knee to the ground. He takes both her hands into his. He looks up into her eyes, and he pleads, Linda Gertrude Stein, will you be my wife? Will you marry me? Will you let me have your hand forever and ever. Norman would have kept trying to find the right words if Linda had not interrupted him and saved him from himself. Yes. Norman always thought it was strange how she insists on heating the apples up on the grill pan. Someday, Norman would miss the grilled apples, but today, it was just another unusual breakfast prepared by a very special lady, whom he loved with all his heart. On the television, the commercial break continued. Norman is curious to see the segment on the latest get-rich-quick scheme that is passing through town. The news anchor interviews members of the community that are attending the convention center this weekend for an event that was sure to change lives forever. Norman watches with disbelief. No one is going to get rich. They will all lose their money. Every single one of them. The people on the television, one after another, get on camera to tell the world how amazing the conference will be. "If you are sitting at home," said one woman, "and you do nothing to change your life but just sit at home, then nothing will ever change." Norman looks at Fido. He looks at Linda. Linda is wearing one of his t-shirts. It is far too big on her, and it fits her like a dress. He wonders for a moment if she has shorts on beneath it. "If I never do anything different, then nothing will change. Why would I ever want this to change? Why would he ever want this to change? His life is nearly perfect, and if anything is wrong with his life, the woman remains blissfully unaware." Linda finishes the sausage and calls out, "Hey, Norm, breakfast is ready. Should we eat it in the living room and watch The Walking Dead?" Norman had secretly watched the Walking Dead episode already. Herschel was going to lose his leg in this episode. He can't wait to see Linda's face when they break the news to Herschel that the leg is going to have to be cut off. He wonders if he will be able to fake enough surprise to keep his dirty secret that he had watched the episode last night after she went to bed early. "Let's watch The Walking Dead," Norman exclaims. "That sounds like a great idea. I can't wait to see what happens with Carl. Wasn't he really sick last episode?" Norman smiles to himself about his clever misdirection. Certainly by asking about Carl, Linda would have no idea that he is thinking about Herschel. He wonders, did he overplay his hand? Was he too enthusiastic? Did he stress his focus on Carl too much? Linda brings 2 coffees from the kitchen and places them on the table. She returns with 2 plates and a bill. Norman was not expecting her to bring the gas bill with breakfast. It is printed on pink paper. "Norm, honey, before we watch the episode, can we talk about the gas bill this month?" "Sure, Linda. What's up?" Norman unfolds the pink paper. "The bill is 3 months past due, and it has accumulated late fees, and it is much bigger than I can handle. I really didn't want to bother you with it, but I have no choice. It is 3 months of bills, all in one." "What?" Norman asks as he thrusts forward. Fido runs from Norman, as cats do when their human makes any sudden movements. Norman gives Linda the entire paycheck every 2 weeks. She manages the money. She pays the bills. Norman remains disconnected most of the time. He always thought if there was a problem that she would tell him. She would tell him. She would tell him as soon as there was a problem, wouldn't she? Norman looks at the gas bill so long that Linda begins to think that he is waiting for the numbers to change. But they don't change. Norman and Linda need to make some changes. That's the end of chapter 3. It's called A Simpler Life. does seem like Norman was quite happy. He says, "Why would I want anything to change?" Well, apparently his life wasn't as perfect as he thought. They were having money problems. I wonder if that's what led Norman to start the path that he's on now. In Chapter 4, we learn about Burton's first conference. To make sure you catch all the chapters, subscribe below. Chapter 4, Burton's first conference. Burton is making a profession out of going to conferences. Each conference offers the promise of something new, a chance to profit in a way that no common man or woman can imagine. He feeds off the energy. His first conference was held in his hometown. After that, he would find himself traveling all the way across the country just to see who has been selected to speak and hear what it is they have to say. The first time that he attended a conference, he made sure that he arrived early. The invitation read very clearly, "Be at the Okeechobee Hyatt Lakeside at 7 a.m. sharp. All event attendees who are seated before 7 a.m. will receive a free laptop." Burton wants the free laptop more than he wants to go to a conference. But if these chumps are going to throw away money on a free laptop, then who is he to stop them? He arrives at 5:30 a.m. and picks a seat toward the back so the sales staff will be less likely to find him when the sales pitches come. All he wants is a free laptop. Then he will go home. They don't just give away the free laptop. I mean, they do just give it away, that is, but they make you wait for it. Burton had to be in his seat by 7 a.m., but he would have to stay there all day until they gave away the laptops at 6 p.m. There would be no breaks, of course. There would be breaks, of course. There would be a chance to go outside and smoke if you did that sort of thing. There would be a chance to use the toilets or stretch your legs or call your wife and tell her. It would just be a little longer until you got the free laptop, and then you could come home. After the short breaks, Burton heads inside and takes his seat. He listens about how easy it is to make money. "Think about where you are in your life," the speaker announces from the stage. "If you are not where I am, if you do not have the ability to quit your job and keep the income, if you do not have 3 Rolls Royces, if you do not have a house on the beach and a house on the mountaintop with a private pilot to take you from one to the other, then ask yourself." This is always where they insert the long pause. The speaker stops and gives Burton and every other person in the room a chance to think. And Burton does think. "I don't have 2 houses. I don't even have 1 house. My car is a lease. I hate my job. We are always short on money." The speaker pauses just long enough for the self-doubt to set. Then he or she continues, "If you don't have these things, then ask yourself these next 2 simple questions. 1. What is the guy on stage doing differently? And 2. And how do I do the same thing?" The message resounds with Burton. It is so simple. He works 40 hours or more each week. He makes barely enough to get by. There are no savings. There are no vacations. Maybe, Burton thinks, I should pay more attention to what the guy on stage is talking about. The sessions are long. Speaker after speaker talks about how life was back then and how it is now that they have discovered this new opportunity. And then there is another break. After each break, Burton returns to find a seat, and each time he picks a seat closer to the front of the room until he is in the very front row. Burton does not want to miss an ounce of this free wisdom emanating from the stage. There is gold in these words, and Burton stops thinking about the laptop and starts thinking about what he will do when he can buy 1,000 laptops with cash. Burton doesn't want a laptop anymore. He wants something else. Burton wants to be just like the people on the stage. Now, Burton wants to sell things on the internet. The whole room fills with a silence when the speaker commands the stage correctly. The speaker takes 3 steps forward and hesitates with dramatic pause. You have heard a lot of information today. That's true, I have. Burton fills each pause with an inner dialogue. It almost feels that he and the speaker are in a private conversation. We have showed you how simple it is to break the chains of your J-O-B. The speaker spells out the word job as if it's too foul to let children hear it spoken. That's true. I have seen how easy it is. There is just one piece that you are missing to make it all come together. Oh, I don't want to be missing anything. What is it? Give it to me so that I know what it is and I know what I have to do. But before I give you the missing piece, yes? Before I do, let me ask you this. Go on. Isn't it worth it? Isn't it worth it to spend $5 to get $25 in return? Of course it is. That's nothing. Isn't it worth it to spend $100 to make $1,000? After all, you end up with $900 in the bank when all is said and done, don't you? I do end up with more money than I spend. I do. So then, isn't it also worth it? The speaker drops suddenly to a whisper because he knows that the softer you speak, the more people will lean in to hear what you have to say. The softer you speak, the more that they feel it is a deep secret, and Burton is ready for the secret. Now I'm going to tell you the honest truth. It's not going to be easy, but isn't it worth it to put in $25,000 on a credit card today to make millions of dollars tomorrow? Burton reaches for his credit card. This is the day that changes everything. How many of you have ever gone to a conference like that, where you get a free laptop or a free steak dinner? Anyone who's been to a timeshare presentation has been through that experience. But it applies in more than just timeshares. It really is quite an art to see how a speaker can convince a crowd to part with $25,000 or more. And it's not always $25,000, but for Burton it was. And that was his first conference. That was his